So thank you for having me. What I'm going to talk about today is just, in general terms, what is needed to address the climate crisis. It's really quite simple. We're taking billions of tons of carbon that's been buried for hundreds of millions of years and is not part of the carbon cycle, taking it from deep underground and adding it to the carbon cycle. When looked at in the context of history, it actually looks like this. This is the essence of the problem. The goal is to exit the era as quickly as possible. The transition is delayed because there is a hidden subsidy on all carbon-producing activity. In a healthy market, if you have, say, 10 euros of benefit and 4 euros of harm to society, the profit would be 6 euros. This is where the incentives are aligned with a good future. In an unhealthy market, we have an untaxed negative externality. This is basically economics 101. You have basically unreasonable profit because this cost to society is not being paid. The net result is 35 gigatons of carbon per year into the atmosphere. So we need to go from having an untaxed negative externality, which is effectively a hidden carbon subsidy, $5.3 trillion a year according to the IMF. We need to move away from this and have a carbon tax. And to make it sort of something which is neither a left nor a right issue, we should make it probably a revenue-neutral carbon tax. But there needs to be a clear message from government in this regard, because the fundamental problem is the rules today incent people to create carbon. And this is madness. And whatever you incent will happen. And depending upon what action we take will drive the carbon number to either extreme or moderate levels. So then the question is, so what can you do? I would say whenever you have the opportunity, talk to your politicians, ask them to enact a carbon tax. We have to fix the unpriced externality.
I think climate change is an existential threat 1A. I think it's right there next to everything I'm talking about. So I'm for carbon tax and dividend. I'm for rejoining the Paris Accords. I'm for spending hundreds of billions of dollars on our infrastructure to make it more resilient. But I believe that the things I'm talking about are actually a precursor to addressing climate change effectively. So in this country, most people can't pay their bills, 78% paycheck to paycheck. And what happens if you can't pay your bills is you have what's called a mindset of scarcity, where like your bandwidth is constrained with just trying to I pay you and I have enough money for that. And studies have shown that a mindset of scarcity decreases your functional IQ by 13 points, or 1 standard deviation. So if you have a sneaking feeling that people in the US are getting less rational and more impulsive and susceptible to bad ideas and maybe even more hateful, we are. And the reason we are is that we've introduced pervasive financial insecurity into our society, and then people naturally start looking for people to blame. So if you go to people in that situation and you say, guys, we need to work on climate change, it's a major problem. Some of them will say to you, I cannot pay my bills. The penguins can wait in line. Now, that's not great, but that is our reality. What we have to do is we have to reverse this mindset of scarcity that has swept so many of our communities and reverse it with a mindset of abundance and possibility and optimism. And then if we go to those same people and say, we need to address climate change, they will look at their children and they will say, yeah, you're right, we need to. So by getting the economic boot off of people's throats, we're then going to be able to galvanize energy in our society to actually solve the bigger future-oriented problems. So just because I did not talk about climate change as one of my big 3, you should know that I see the freedom dividend as the biggest intermediate step we can take towards actually addressing climate change.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. Okay. What to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
100%, brother. That's what my campaign for president is all about. But the other thing is I want to actually measure economic progress, as I indicated before. GDP is an archaic measurement we made up almost 100 years ago. And even the inventor said this is a terrible measurement for national well-being and we should not use it as that. And so I was suggesting before that GDP is going to guide us astray. So what would guide us more appropriately would be something that integrates human health, childhood success rates, and environmental quality. You actually make it that economic progress is tied to environmental sustainability. And then if you grow, you're growing in the way that you actually want to. Because right now we're growing in this two-dimensional way that's going to kill us, and it's going to kill the planet. So what we have to do is we have to evolve to a 21st century economy that actually is driving things that would help us. The level of actual conversation going on is so superficial, it is staggering. That is one of the reasons I'm so sure that this campaign needs to keep on rising and rising throughout this year and into next year. And we have a chance to make history in part because our institutions now are so weak, are so in need. I grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so you had a sense that America was going to be trending upwards, and then at some point that started to head the other direction. And now that I've been in the guts of our political system and our media conglomerates over the last year and a half, we can win this whole thing. Let's just say that the front runners of today will not be the front runners of tomorrow.